Welcome to Strong, Confident, and Informed, the podcast where we go beyond surface level fitness advice and actually help you understand what's driving your results. I'm Danielle Lemoyne, an online fitness coach who helps women build strength, lose fat, and most importantly, stay consistent without constantly starting over. Today, we're talking about something that you've probably heard 100 times: progressive overload. And I think this is one of those concepts that sounds simple on the surface, but when it comes to actually applying it, a lot of people either overthink it or completely miss it. And what ends up happening is you feel like you're doing everything right, you're showing up, you're working out, you're putting in the effort, but your results feel stalled or slower than they should be, maybe even inconsistent. And a lot of the time, it comes back to this. So, let's strip this back to what it actually means. At its core, progressive overload is simply asking your body to do slightly more over time. That's it. Not dramatically more, not completely different, just slightly more. Because your body adapts to what you give it. And once it adapts, it has no reason to change further unless you give it a new reason. And this is something I see all the time with clients before they start coaching. They've been going to the gym for months, sometimes years, doing the same workouts, using the same weights, moving through the things in the same way, and they're frustrated because they feel like they should be further ahead, but from the body's perspective, nothing new is happening. So nothing new is being created. Now, here's where people start to go in the wrong direction. Because once they hear you need to do more, they take that to the extreme. They think, I need to lift heavier every workout. I need to push harder every time. I need to feel exhausted for it to count. And that's not what we're trying to do here. Because that approach is not sustainable. And more importantly, it disconnects you from your body. What we're actually aiming for is intentional progression. And that's a very different feeling than just going harder. It's control, measured, and it's repeatable. So instead of asking yourself, how can I do more today? I want you to start asking this: what can I do slightly better this week? And that shift alone changes everything. Because there are multiple ways to progress, and most people only focus on one. That most obvious one is, of course, adding weight. And yes, that absolutely does matter. If you're lifting 20 pounds for weeks and weeks and weeks, at some point, your body is going to fully adapt to that. And then it's not being challenged anymore. So increasing the weight is one way to create that next level of adaptation. But here's the part most people don't realize it. That's not the only way. And it's not always the best way in every situation. So let's say you're doing an exercise and your form isn't fully locked in yet. Okay, you're moving the weight, but you're not really feeling the right muscles. You're rushing through your reps and you're not controlling that movement. Adding more weight in this situation doesn't actually help you. It's usually going to actually make things worse. So in that case, progression might actually look like slowing things down. Actually controlling each rep, feeling the right muscles work. Maybe it's improving your depth if it's a squat. Maybe it's improving your positioning. That is progress, even if the weight stays the same. Another way to progress is through reps. So instead of jumping weight right away, you might go from 8 reps to 10 reps or from 10 to 12. That builds strength and capacity over time. And then eventually, that allows you to increase the weight. And this is something I want you to really hear. Progression doesn't always look impressive, and it doesn't always feel dramatic, but it does add up. Now, let's talk about something that I think is even more important than all of this, and that's consistency. Because I can give you the most perfectly structured program, but if you're only doing it once or twice a week inconsistently, you're not going to see the same results as someone who is showing up regularly. So if you go from working out twice a week to 3 times a week consistently, that is a form of progressive overload. Your body is now being exposed to more stimulus overall, and it has to adapt. And I think this is where a lot of women tend to get stuck. They're so focused on making each workout better that they overlook the fact that their biggest opportunity is actually just showing up more consistently. Now, let me give you an example of what this can look like in real life. Let's say you're doing a lower body workout. Week 1, you're squatting 95 pounds for 8 reps. Week 2, maybe you stay at that 95 pounds, but you get 10 reps. Week 3, you move it up to 105 pounds for 8 reps again. Week 4, maybe your energy is now lower, so you will stay at that 105 and you focus on the control and the depth for the 8 reps. That is progression. Notice how it's not linear. It's not adding more weight every single week or every single workout. It's responsive. It adjusts based on how you're feeling, how you're recovering, and what your body is ready for. And this is especially important for you if your life isn't perfectly structured every week. If your schedule changes, if stress fluctuates, if your energy isn't always the same, you need an approach that works with that. Because your body doesn't exist in isolation. Your workouts are not separate from your life. They're part of it. So some weeks, your focus might be pushing a little bit more, and other weeks, your focus might be maintaining and staying consistent. And that still counts. That still moves you forward. Now, one of the biggest things that will hold you back with this is staying in your comfort zone. And this is very human. We all do it. We find a weight that feels manageable and we stick with it. We don't push past that point because it feels uncomfortable. But that discomfort is where change happens. Not extreme discomfort. I'm not talking about that. But that slight challenge, that feeling of, okay, this is a bit harder than last time. That's the signal your body needs. So if you've been doing the same workouts for a while, I want you to take a step back and ask yourself honestly, have I actually been progressing anything? Or have I just been repeating? Because repeating things maintains, progressing changes it. And the good news is this, you don't need to overhaul everything. You don't need a completely new plan, and you don't need to start from scratch. You just need to start layering in small improvements and staying consistent with them. So that might look like adding a bit of weight when you're ready, adding a couple reps, maybe it's slowing the movement down or improving your form, or it could just be simply showing up more regularly. And when you do that over weeks and months, that's when you start to see real changes, not just physically, but also in your confidence, in how you move, how you feel in your body, how you show up. So if you've been feeling stuck lately, I want you to zoom out. And instead of asking, why isn't this working? I want you to ask yourself, where can I progress even slightly? Because that's the difference. If you want help applying this in a way that actually fits your life, your schedule, and your goals, that's exactly what I do inside my coaching. If this episode resonated with you, come hang out with me on Instagram at DL Fitness Coaching. Send me a message and let me know what landed for you. And if you're ready for support applying this in your own routine, you can find all the details about my coaching in the show notes. Thanks for being here, and I'll talk to you in the next episode.